The James Show Podcast.
Are you ready for the riots this weekend? You got anything to do? I doubt your weekend's going to be interrupted by the rioters, but they're planning on having them all across America. There's another round of nationwide protests that are going to happen 2 weeks after that. So we're just planning on... Have you done what I've done? I recommend this. I have gone through and I've signed up for all kinds of newsletters from these lefty activist groups, Indivisible, 5051. What's the new one now that I'm signing up for? No Kings. Yeah, this is all good stuff. You can follow their groups on Twitter/X. You can follow their topics on Reddit. You can follow some of the Facebook groups for these people. And they have it mapped out. I'm telling you, if they have their druthers until they give the stand down order, the plan is to just keep this going. For how long? I don't know. It's been a lot of our observations, mine included, that they really can't keep these things going for more than about 3 months or so. The national attention span does have some limits. That's what made the George Floyd protests so extraordinary, is they actually lasted for about 5 months, which is sort of a record. You know, well, I guess maybe even more than that, because it was June, July, August, September, October. No, because it stopped on Election Day. When Donald Trump lost, all of a sudden, no one had any more interest in racial justice anymore. It's the weirdest thing. It's almost like it was completely political. Make no mistake about it. That's what they want. If they can keep the excitement going, or the fires burning, which would be perfect metaphor for this. Before the break there, I was having the conversation with a previous guy, and some smarty pants came over here on YouTube. Must be new to the show. He was making the case, illegal migrants can't vote and can't participate in social programs, buddy. Educate yourself. And so then I brought up some examples. He said, nah, man, bring me proof of significant voter fraud from illegals. Well, I did a quick search, and on the break, within a minute, I found a story that I didn't have to cherry pick. I just went back 3 weeks? This is from May 22nd of 2025 on justice.gov. The headline is Columbia National charged with voter fraud, federal benefit fraud, and identity theft offenses. Turns out there's a woman from Columbia who's been here illegally, unlawfully residing in Boston, got fake ID, real ID, has received more than $400,000 in stolen federal benefits. I don't have to make this up. I don't have to invent sort of fantasies in my head. The real life does support what I'm saying. $260,000 in Section 8 rental assistance. $101,000 in Social Security disability benefits. $43,000 in food stamps. Well, supplemental nutrition assistance program. So yeah, it does happen. But if your only comeback is, oh yeah, well, bring me some widespread examples. Well, stop. Then you're never going to be satiated. You're impervious to logic if that's your comeback. But we've seen a lot of people being impervious to logic. So we have a couple of double-think attempts here. They want you to be mad enough that you go and you throw bricks at cops, that you go and you write F-ICE on the Apple Store in Los Angeles, and then you loot it. They want you to be that upset, but they don't want the people in the hinterlands to get too scared and think you're a bad guy. So while you're out doing very violent things, including arson, including theft, including assault, they have to convince the people who are scared of such things, the pearl clutchers. This is a mostly peaceful riot, really.
The LA County Police say that they have it under control. Carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. What did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot.
Video after video has shown that these agents are the ones provoking protesters and also making up, aggression by these protesters that later video shows people were not aggressive.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Unrest is isolated. LA is home to millions of people, most of whom are having a normal day here on Sunday.
All right, so the Grabian montage actually continues for another minute. I got a nice little dime here. PBS's Jeff Bennett was saying that Trump is escalating the riots? I'm just going to play the question here. The answer
It's
is
Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter and Tamara Keith of NPR. It's great to see you both.
Hello. Good to be back.
So let's start with what's happening in Los Angeles with the deployment of the National Guard, the federalizing of those troops, and then add to that the roughly 700 U.S. Marines who've been deployed. They're now on standby. Tam, this is clearly a fight that Donald Trump wants. What is his strategy in escalating the response?
God, that's the question. What is his strategy in escalating the response? Like, he did this. Is that Trump supporters doing that? MSNBC had probably the best one this morning. There's a guy standing in front of a fire, in front of fireworks going off, in front of a riot, saying, other than what you see, the riots are mostly mellow.
It's not chaotic. It's not, nobody's, other than what you see behind me, it's actually relatively mellow, even though it might not seem that way. It's like a sort of, another thing that happens at protests like this is that they sort of settle into almost like a celebratory atmosphere, as much as like a confrontational one.
Isn't that... The pair, just the giant pair it takes while explosions are going off behind you to call it mellow. It looks like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome behind you. That is not mellow. Oh, but January 6th, that was an insurrection. That was way out of control. We gotta stop these guys. Clowns. I'm not sure what's going to stop them. I have a couple of guesses. Number one is if public opinion sours on these things and the powers that be realize, or at least the powers that be on Team Blue, realize that this is hurting them more than it's helping them with the voting constituencies. Other than that, I'm not sure if I see another exit ramp here in the near future. The George Floyd riots quit after the election. There was nothing that happened having to do with the case or the discovery or the trial or Derek Chauvin or any of that stopped it. So clearly that was a political motivation, and these people just magically stopped on their own when it was no longer politically beneficial for Team Blue. I'm looking for that off-ramp. My next guest may have some insight for us. Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. Now, Tony, you're an important person to talk to because you actually go to many of these protests. I believe you were at one last weekend. Are you going to be at the ones this weekend?
Thanks. Yeah, I was at the one earlier this week. Believe it was Monday or Tuesday. No, it was Monday. And then, I will definitely be at the one this weekend. They anticipate that one to be a bit larger.
So let's talk about the one on Monday first. It didn't look like Los Angeles. There weren't cars set on fire or buildings looted. But was there any big problems that you would classify as violent?
Actually, pretty subtle for a protest, especially a leftist protest, right? As you typically know, they get very violent. I saw one firework go off and one or two bottles thrown at police officers. Dallas police officers responded immediately with rubber bullets or paintballs as they were fired from. But other than that was it. A lot of leftists cussing at police officers, but the police let the protesters have their room to do their thing and get their venting going and their comedy chants going. And then when they declared that the protest was no longer allowed, protesters very slowly but eventually backed up off the streets that were blocked off for them, and they dispersed.
One thing I noticed from the protest on Monday is, I saw more Palestinian flags than Mexican flags, and I didn't see any American flags.
Yeah, actually, surprisingly, there was one or two American flags, but like you said, there's more Palestinian flags. What's interesting is that I think that the Democrat powers that be are understanding that the optics of flying around foreign flags look really horrible, especially for their voting numbers. And so you're starting to see some American flags not get burned and waved around at these protests. But while I was there, I saw they had a lot of pre-prepared chants that they were giving out, and a lot of anti-ICE chants, a lot of pro-Palestine chants. But that was really about it. And the demographics were also very interesting. The protest, at least in Dallas, I'd say was 90% Latino or Hispanic, maybe 5% white and trannies, and the rest was others.
So why do you think this weekend's going to be worse, Tony?
Well, the one earlier this week on Monday was held on a weekday at night. This weekend is going to be, on a weekend in the middle of the day with a lot more light and a lot more people potentially with not at work. And this one's going to be held more towards the city area of downtown Dallas. And I just think with everything that's been building up over the week, a lot more people are going to be available on the left to get protests, and hopefully not violent, but I guess we'll see.
So, since you actually are on the ground seeing some of these protests over and over, are you seeing some of the same people, whether it's something racially motivated like a Carmelo Anthony, or something that's motivated by immigration like this ICE issue, or the Palestinian protests that were happening a couple months ago? Is this just the same people finding different grievances?
Yeah, well, with this one, you have, I would say, at least 5 to 10, maybe even 15% of the people that attend these things are reoccurring visitors, right? Whether they're with anarchist groups or Antifa groups or part of these gay, LGBT, tranny groups. These are the same people that go to the same types of protests over and over again. As far as the one that happened Monday, well, this one's more centered towards ICE. So a lot of Hispanics. And frankly, they were more there for photo ops. I saw, when I was walking around, I saw a lot of, especially the young women, were posing with the Mexican flags, hoping that press would get a photo of them. So a lot of opportunists there at these protests for sure.
All right, we're talking with Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. He's got a great website, currentrevolt.com, that deals with a lot of Texas political, and I don't like to use the word tabloid, but it's, more of a gossip bulletin board.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about, I think you do what I do. Have you signed up to be on the mailing list for a lot of these groups, like for Indivisible or No Kings or 5051 people? Do you get some of their mail?
It's funny you mentioned Indivisible. I actually, I went undercover and joined their group about maybe 5 years ago, and they gave me business cards and everything. It was a good time.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a fun experience. Well, as you know, James, I'm brown, so fitting in with these leftist groups are really easy because they see the color of my skin and they immediately just assume I'm one of them. So I did attend an Indivisible meeting a long while back, and they totally hooked me up with business cards and gave me talking points, and I got to meet a lot of the people there, and caused a little bit of internal trouble with them when I was causing some internal fights with them. But these leftist groups seem to operate the same. It's just kind of keeping people angry and getting them riled up to show up and cause problems, and they give them all the speaking points that they need in order to do such.
Tony Ortiz, how do you think this ends?
Well, I think that eventually, I think Trump's going to. This is a winning thing for Donald Trump, the president. This is a winning issue. His polling numbers are up. Americans, even CNN was talking about this. 51% of Americans support Trump's actions on illegal immigration as it is right now. So he has the majority for him, and I think he's going to continue enforcing good immigration laws, and I think he's going to strike down hard these violent protesters. And I think eventually the left will peter out. There's no other path for them because they're not going to get what they want.
Yeah. So, Tony Ortiz, when you go out there, just be sure to get me some good audio that I can use on Monday's show. Which one are you going to? Because I'm looking at the website. There's one planned this weekend for Arlington, Flower Mound, Frisco, Kaufman, Fort Worth, McKinney, and Dallas.
I'll be in Dallas.
Fantastic. All right. Well, this is great. Tony Ortiz, who actually goes down into the mix and gets some audio and video of these protesters. Check out his great website, currentrevolt.com. Thank you so much again, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. Be safe out there. Also, the next James Show meet and greet, listener meetup, is going to be at a comedy show. Alex Stein's hosting it. I'm going to be one of the openers, June 29th at Hyenas in Dallas. Come on out. That'll count for our meet and greet for June. And in July, I think I'm returning to Plano. More details about that when we get closer. But the top story of the day continues to be the riots. They haven't gone away. They have gotten a little bit better from what I was watching in Los Angeles last night. Not nearly as bad as what we saw previously. Still unacceptable. But the question is that they want this to keep going, right? I think we all agree. They're at least going to do another big round of them this weekend. They're going to do another big round of them in 2 weeks that I see. I'm on a bunch of mailing lists for this stuff. It's fun. But my theory is they're going to keep doing this as long as they find it politically beneficial. However, is it politically beneficial? Because if you look at illegal immigrants, of course they don't like the ICE raids. It's them that are being targeted. It's them that are going to have to, I don't know, it just feels weird to say they're going to be sent back home. Oh my God, that's so terrible. I'm going to be targeted and sent back to my country of origin. Oh no. Like sending someone home, that's not really a punishment. It's not really a violation of your human rights, is it? But I find it quite interesting how legal immigrants feel about this. Harry Enton on CNN had a couple of good points he was making last night. Legal immigrants seem to like Trump.
Look at this. In 2024, all the way up to 47% of the vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely losing that vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely winning that vote. Again, there is no block of voters that shifted more to the right from 2020 to 2024 than immigrant voters. And Donald Trump, at least in some surveys, actually won that vote. On average, it's about equal.
So then when we get to the specifics, not only do they seem to like Trump and generally speaking his immigration policy, how do they feel about the ICE raids that are happening? Legal immigrants, Harry Enton?
Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
Ooh. Now that might make it die down pretty quick. They're starting to lose voters over this. That's amazing, because you were just told yesterday on The View that Trump's ratings, they're just dropping everywhere. And at the end, even with the immigrants.
It leads into what he wanted to do. What he wants to do is he wants to create a scene. He wants to say, I was justified in sending in the National Guard because look at how violent these protesters are, which they were not until this was exacerbated.
They're
but
fine.
I think he has a strategy here. He is losing support in every area. Inflation, the economy, tariffs, foreign policy. His ratings are dropping
Even on immigration,
like rocks.
Yeah, even on immigration. Yeah. No, they're not. They're just saying that. They don't need to look it up. They don't need to double check. They don't need to fact check. It just feels right. It fits the narrative. It makes Trump's look bad. So we'll just say it. Oh, I'm enjoying this so much. I don't know what I like better, that or the idea that these are mellow riots. Other than what you see, the burning buildings behind me, burning cars, totally mellow.
It's not chaotic. It's not, nobody's, other than what you see behind me, it's actually relatively mellow, even though it might not seem that way. It's like a sort of, another thing that happens at protests like this is that they sort of settle into almost like a celebratory atmosphere, as much as like a confrontational one.
Yeah, it's celebratory. It's fun stuff. Donna, Dallas, you're on WBAP.
Hello. Yeah, you were talking about the legal immigrants or people that go through the process and how they felt about it. And Saturday, I went to a party for a friend of mine from Colombia who just went through the process of becoming a citizen. And so they were having a party for her. And yes, she's very not happy with the way things are going with the illegal immigrants coming and just getting in after she had to go through the classes and take the test and all that stuff. So I would think that kind of goes without saying.
Well, I've seen it be super divisive. Me and Miss Parker have a mutual friend who is. She initially came here illegally as a kid, but when she turned 18, she's like, I'm going to do the right thing, and she started the process. Well, she's not even finished with it, and she's been going through it for like 11 years, and it's cost her thousands of dollars.
God.
So, she's from Mexico. There's pretty much a waiting line. But she has siblings who are illegal and want to be illegal, have no damn intention of even attempting to make themselves right with the law, getting a green card, much less citizenship. And she says it makes her so mad that her brother put a Mexico flag sticker on her car.
Oh my God, mercy! Yeah.
So I see siblings arguing with each other. This divides families because
exactly, and it should. I mean, it's ridiculous that you even have to talk about it, but we are.
Well, she even says the things that we say here on WBAP. She's like, if you love Mexico so much, why are you here? You know, we still have family there. You can get a job down there. You would have a place to stay. It's not a foreign country. You still watch your favorite soccer teams from up here, Chivas or, the Tigres or whoever it is. Yeah, Atlas or America. I don't know who you people, what your favorite team is. But, yeah, she says the same thing, and she's an illegal.
Yeah, see, it makes no sense. And, you're talking about the riots and all the calm riots when these people are talking, and there's the burning cars in the background, which kind of tends to think that it's not a nice, smooth transition in the rioting.
Yeah,
so I don't know why they think we're stupid, but I guess they do.
Yeah, a bunch of 60-something-year-old gray-haired veterans loitering through Statuary Hall, not even knocking over the velvet ropes. That's an insurrection. Right. But the burning car behind you, totally mellow. That's mellow, Donna.
Absolutely. That's how it works on that side.
Great call. Something keeps coming up. This idea that this is stolen land and should be returned to Mexico as it is. I pulled out just a little tiny chunk of this audio because beforehand there's cussing and right after this audio clip is cussing, but this is
our city and this was Mexico. You can't get this out of the land that was ours.
So let's address that. This was Mexico. You can't kick us out of the land that was ours. Okay. Let's address some of that. Was California ever part of Mexico? Well, let's do Texas too, because this applies to us. We're kind of in the same boat as California, where I'm sitting right now. Was this ever part of Mexico? Yes. Yes, this was part of Mexico. When was it part of Mexico? Well, from about 1820-ish to about 1836. I'm not Googling this, it's just off the top of my head because we all had Texas history in 7th grade. So yeah, for about 16 years. Well, what was it before that? Well, before that, for about 300 years, it was part of Spain, right? And Spain's not an indigenous country or an indigenous people. That's another European colonizer. Ooh, European colonizer. So before that, what was Texas? Well, it was split up among many tribes of the Native American Indians, none of which were the people classified as Mexica. It's another word for Aztecs, but it's a little larger umbrella, sort of like the whole Nahuatl speaking groups. So no, the Mexica people have never been in charge of Texas, except if you count Mexico during that little 16-year period. So that's strange. So even though we have had it for 200 years now, almost 200 years, it's not ours. We don't get to claim it because you never had it, Mexica. You were granted some of the European colonial holdings when Spain fell, and that's not anything y'all really did. That was more of a Napoleon thing, different show for a different time. But no, you don't have a better claim to this land than we do. It was only, the Mexican flag only flew over where I'm standing right now for 16 years. For California, a little longer than that. What was like 20-something years? Ooh, you got us. We've got almost 200 years on you now. By what right is it yours? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. If you want to use that sort of logic, then the Mexica people shouldn't even have all of Mexico. You people never controlled the Yucatan Peninsula. That's Mayans. That's different people. The far north Mexico, that wasn't part of your tribes or your language group either. You know, the Chihuahua and Coahuila and all that. If you want to go back and start, redrawing the borders based on who was here first, where does it stop? Can the Christians get Constantinople back? Cleo and Plano, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
You already hit on it. I was going to say that. And when you look at the current people that are sitting there now, they're more Spanish than they are any of those Indians. So you cannot have a bunch of colonizers, theoretically, when you look at them going, oh, we're taking back, the land that we already had. Just shut up. It just sounds bad.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because the other angle is we're the native people of this land. It's like, well, your last name's Garcia. Your last name's Gonzalez. These are European names. Yeah, you don't have
I mean.
Yeah, you're not an Indian. You're a European descendant who just happens to be a little browner than some of us Native Americans. And I mean native like people who are born here, natural born citizens of America. So yeah, that's a great point to bring up because what's the number one last name in Spain? I think it's Garcia, right? Isn't that?
I think it is too.
Yeah. So not only are you not one of the natives, I mean, look, you have some native genetics running through your veins. I think most of us do, even Elizabeth Warren. But you guys are kind of colonizers too. When y'all got control of California, y'all were colonizers. When Mexico had control of Texas, it wasn't because you were the native inhabitant. You were colonizing the people in Texas.
That brutally suppress those people. So don't sit up here now going, my name is Garcia and Hernandez, and I want back my land where I brutally colonized, put people in special schools and did all sorts of horrible things. But now I want this back, and I'm going to try to play and pretend like I'm a victim.
Yeah, well, I just want to know, whenever the game of undoing musical chairs, how far back do we go? Can we get back Anatolia? Can we get back Istanbul/Constantinople? Can the Christians regain that? I don't think they'd be on board with that.
Yeah, and I think that's why traditionally that saying might makes right makes sense, because how far back are you going to go? Because nobody is really standing on any land that was originally theirs.
And I hope everyone gets that. Thank you very much, Cleo in Plano. Hey, how would you like to win a 4-pack of tickets to go see the Rangers? 1 week from today, they're going to be at a game at Globe Life Field. Starts at 7 o'clock. And if Rangers aren't enough to get you in the door, free tickets aren't enough to get you in the door. It's also $1 hot dog night. So I don't want to say you're cheap. Maybe you're just really efficient, or maybe you're just really judicious with your scarce entertainment dollars. I can help you out with that. It's one of the contests we have going on right now. If you text Rangers to the phone number for this station, you'll be entered in a contest to win a family 4-pack of tickets to see the Rangers next week. 800-288-9227 is the number. You text the word Rangers to 800-288-9227. And hopefully you win, have a good time, make some memories with your family, and then tell me all about it in an email later.
The James Show Podcast.